Can you hear me guys now? Is it better? Good now? Is it good now? Okay, sorry guys about that. I don't know what happened. I apologize for this first 4 minutes. Thank you very much for your patience and for being here. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, so maybe I've messed up a little bit my settings. So I will need to be a bit careful going forward. So I apologize for that. So I'd like to say to kickstart today's stream, talking a little bit about the bond market. I know it's the most boring market. I get it. I also think it's boring. However, it gives you the feeling for the rest of the market. It's by far the largest one, and all the rest is a derivative of the bond market. So we've had better than expected inflation numbers, and yeah, exactly, Ralph. And bonds are indeed important because the bond market is bigger than the stock market, commodities, and crypto all combined by a mile. So there's never a situation where bonds are collapsing and stocks or any risk asset are going sustainably higher and higher. That never exists. However, so what you want to see is it can go down. That's fine, but it needs to go down on a bit of a stable way. Okay, so that's very important. And one of the predictions that I made at the beginning of the year, if you guys remember, is that the Russell 2000 would outperform the other major indices, particularly when the rate cuts became more apparent. Now, I was expecting that to start happening, around April, May, because I was expecting the rate cuts to be more likely to happen somewhere in June. Obviously, that didn't happen. But as soon as the rate cuts seem now invariably going to happen, and they will happen, because it's a mathematical problem, as I've said this 1,000 times. It's not a political, it's not about elections or anything like that. It's simple math. The Russell 2000, unlike what most people think that the Nasdaq correlates better with interest rates. Yeah, one part of the Nasdaq, yes, but because now the Nasdaq is dominated by the strongest companies in the country, then obviously they can bear higher interest rates much better than the majority of the other companies. So really, the index that is linked more closely to the real U.S. economy is the Russell 2000, which is the only one that hasn't done a new all-time high. And I was expecting that this year the Russell would outperform the other major indices. However, I expected it a bit earlier in the year. But I have to say, I was one of the few that maybe was suggesting that could be a possibility. And as soon as the rate cuts become apparent, the Russell 2000 is on a complete tear and is on its way to new all-time highs. Now, will it hit a new all-time high next week? Probably not. And we need to understand as well, we are due for a pullback. I think what happened over on Saturday kind of threw people into a frenzy, a buying frenzy, basically because obviously Trump survived. So I think people are getting a bit ahead of themselves. However, we are indeed going into the right direction. So for all the people like Harry Dent that just predicted another 80% market crash, I think for I think at least 7th time this year. So it's once per month. So the first time that I saw him predicting a crash in stocks was in May 2009. For you to have an idea, the bottom of the financial crisis was March 2009. And then he's been advising people to short stocks and to go long bonds forever. So whoever followed this advice is completely annihilated. And it's just what it is. These people don't understand liquidity cycles. They compare, say, 1929 we had a Great Depression, and they fail to realize that our monetary system has nothing to do with what we had back in 1929. So basically, we're making comparisons that have very little in common. It's like saying, in 1850 they used to ride horses, so horses are better than cars because we've always used horse. I mean, it's the same kind of stupid mentality, but unfortunately, I mean, and that guy keeps getting invited because he gets a lot of views and he's never challenged by his hosts. And it would be very easy to challenge him. You just ask him, hey, by the way, what's your track record over the last 15 years? But they never do it because they are also interested in getting the views. Now, I'm going to leave the Trump stuff a little bit later to the stream. So I wanted to go through these things in particular. So I've said this before, and it's important. In my view, the Fed has taken out any risk of the stock market. Now, that doesn't mean that we cannot go down 30-35% here and there. Sure, that can happen. But invariably, we end up in new all-time highs as long as this little game of debt expansion continues. And this game can continue much more than they will continue much more than people can realize. Okay? And that's why people keep on predicting this kind of stuff. And you end up getting, and you can get completely annihilated in the process. What's happening? I see Raf is saying, I still remain cautious. I feel like I'm too big in alts right now. The fear of a recessionary sell-off or recession scare is here. Yes, you do have that. I mean, I think what's going to happen probably is when actually they cut rates, I think we're going to have a 10-15% correction in the stock market. And that will actually, I mean, the Nasdaq is already year to date 25% up. And on the back of an excellent year last year. So last year it was the best year for the Nasdaq since 1999, the second best year of all time. And this year we are already year to date 25% something or 23% up. So, I mean, even if we have a correction of 10-15%, it's still a very good year for the stock market. And yeah, Alexandra, I will capture that in a little bit. I will move to crypto a little bit after the stocks. And so I think, yes, you can have corrections, 10, 15, 20%. Sure. However, if they cut, their hitter goes bullish, but if they cut in July, which they said they wouldn't, it would be bearish. Yeah, I don't think they're going to cut in July. I think they'll probably cut in September, which is what the market is expecting. And Powell never likes to deviate much from the market. I think it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. Why? Because it's always been a buy the rumor, sell the news event. The rate cuts. I mean, just you take a chart, you check time of rate, what happens when they actually cut the rates, and it's always a buy the rumor, sell the news event. But that's not necessarily bad in the sense that we also need some periods where we blow off some steam, where we sell off a little bit, where we correct, where we retest certain areas, where we consolidate. You cannot just go up and up and up. That doesn't work. And by the time that people feel that can work, is the time they get hit the hardest. Okay, this is always the case. And people always try to convince me, no, but this time is going to be different because this time they're going to cut rates and the stock market will just go up. And I always say the same thing. I've said this about the Bitcoin halving, and I will say it here again. What you're saying is, okay, we're going to have our first buy the rumor, buy the news event. We're going to have the first buy the rumor, buy the news event in history. I think we're going to have a buy the rumor, sell the news event like we've ever had in every single market. You are arguing that we're going to have a buy the rumor, buy the news event, which has never happened in history. So, congratulations. I mean, if you think that that's going to happen, if you're right, you're going to be amazing because you just predicted something which never happened before. If you're wrong, which is more likely, I would like to see what you're going to say in the next time. Okay, I'm not talking about you, the chat, directly, to be honest. I'm just saying but I think it's going to happen. I do think I'm actually very pleased to see Russell 2000 moving up, because we can live with divergences. Like you have all these channels talking about divergences between the indices and all of. We have divergences all the time. Okay. And these divergences can last for years, like the Russell just did. And all of a sudden they close the gap. And where is the big crash in the Nasdaq? There's no big crash in the Nasdaq. But unfortunately, people, it's all about the same thing. Look, it's all about liquidity or money supply, currency debasement, if you will. And I will cover this a little bit once again. By the way, I'm seeing the comments in the chat, and I will address them, but they're mostly related to crypto. So I will leave crypto for a little while. Okay, I'm seeing the questions. Don't think that I'm not. I see Estonian. I got my sell targets written down a year ago. As soon as I hit them, I will sell with no hesitation, no matter how much people will think market can go up. Look, I cannot tell you what to do. What I can tell you is you'd never go broke taking profit. That's the reality. But the point is always the same. Can we have momentarily sell-offs? Can we go down 20%? Can we go down 15%? Can we go? Sure we can. When I'm referring that the Fed has taken out the risk of the market, is something like this. You have two types of inflation, and I actually had a discussion with a person on the comment section, and he wasn't understanding what I was trying to say. Yes, you have the CPI side. You have the McDonald's are more expensive, or groceries are more expensive. That's typically a small percentage of the pie, 3-4%. And then on this side, you have the currency debasement. Now, this is the money supply going up. Where do you see the effects of this? You see the effects of this on real estate. Real estate goes up 8% per year on average. So if you want to buy a house, depending on where you live, obviously, it's going to be about 8% more expensive. Where else do you see this? You see this in the stock market. So every year you want to buy the S&P 500, it will cost you on average 8% more, 8 to 10% more than the previous year. Can you have corrections in a certain year? But the average is 8 to 10%. Why is the average 8 to 10%? Because money supply grows on average 8 to 10%. So your currency is just getting debased. Now, you don't see it in the supermarket because, fortunately, we live in an era of technology where we are efficient enough to counteract all the creation of currency. And more importantly, the currency is gate-kept by banks. So you see, if rates are zero, I've given this example before, but I think for the newcomers it's important. See, there's two types. Why did we have inflation this time around with money printing? Because money was given directly to people, and supply was reduced. So you have a perfect room for the CPI inflation, the good and service inflation. But why didn't we have it before? Because we've been printing money for 15 years. I mean, Japan has been printing money for 30 years, right? Japan has been printing money for 30 years, and they have an average of 0% inflation over the year, despite they've printed more than 100% of their GDP. How is this possible? It's very simple. The banks act as gatekeepers. What does that mean? That means that, let's say interest rates are 0%, and the government and the central bank is printing a lot of money. And I go to the bank and I say, hey guys, give me $100,000 because interest rates are 0. And then they look at me and they say, oh, but wait, you have 2 mortgages, you have 2 car loans, you have a lot of credit card debt, and you have a lot of student loan debt. We're not going to give you any money. Oh, Mr. Elon Musk, you want $100 million? Yeah, sure. Here it is at 1%. So what is Elon Musk going to do with that money? I'm saying Elon Musk, somebody in the top 20% of society. They will say, I will buy assets with it. Land, real estate, stocks, whatever. And just because, let's say now that I'm doing extremely well, and I become a billionaire with a B, right? Am I going to eat 5 dinners and 3 lunches? Am I going to drive 10 cars in the same day? No, I'm not. So that is how you can print so much money and have no inflation. You have inflation on the currency debasement side, on the asset prices. When you try to buy stocks, when you try to buy real estate. Now, crypto is much better than stocks or real estate. That's why it appreciates better than anything else. Gold is kind of garbage, and gold is typically kind of garbage. That's why we need to go to $2,700 just to break even from 2011, adjusted for government CPI. Doesn't even count the money supply inflation, doesn't even count the real inflation, adjusted for government lying data. So crypto rises as it's much better than real estate, stocks, or commodities. But this is how, by the way, this is just to be clear, this is how the Fed's balance sheet can go from 800 billion to $4.5 trillion, and your average CPI during that time period was 1.6%. And then, so once you understand this, once you understand that you have this side, the currency debasement, which is asset price inflation, meaning if you want to buy a house, stocks, they go up more or less in line with the money supply per year. And on this side, you have the CPI, the consumer price inflation. If you combine both of them, you need, let's say it's 8% on average plus 3-4% on average, and you have 12%. Oh, thank you very much, Luis. Thank you very much for that comment. So you have 12%. So what does that mean? That means that the S&P, more or less in line with this, so you'll keep more or less around and the same level. Gold is terrible. It's complete garbage asset. Real estate is kind of nice, but it has other costs. You have property taxes, you have maintenance, you cannot just move it around. So what beats this 8% plus 4% is 12%? Tech stocks and crypto. Now, why does crypto beat everything else? Why not stocks, for example? So what's the problem with stocks? Problem with stocks is they have overhead costs, meaning they need to pay people, advertising, management salaries, etc. Number two, and this is a big one, if a stock goes up in price a lot, what's the incentive of management? You guess it, issue more shares. So the supply of shares increases. What's the problem with commodities? Let's say gold, for example. Problem with gold is when gold goes up in price, the miners, their incentive is to mine gold as quickly as possible, as much as possible, and dump it on the market. So that is the problem with the gold industry and the silver industry and other commodities, which is as the price of the commodity goes up, the people who actually mine it don't consider it money. You see, when people like Peter Schiff say, oh, gold is money, yeah, it's actually not money anymore. And the people who mine it for a living don't think it's money. Because if they thought it was money, what would they do? This is what the Bitcoin miners do, by the way. They would accumulate gold and then sell as little as possible just to cover for debt service, paying interest on debt, paying taxes, paying employees, paying all of that. And they would keep as much as possible of gold in their balance sheet. But they don't. They don't. They throw it into the market as quickly as they can. That's why gold is garbage. Now, Bitcoin and crypto, the real crypto, obviously not rug pulls and this kind of garbage, they have well-defined mathematical rules. So the scarcity is embedded in the system, regardless of if a Republican is in power, a Democrat is in power. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if we are in a recession, if we are in a boom. It doesn't matter. It's the same amount with the same inflation rate. And actually, that inflation rate gets cut in half every 4 years, which is called the halving. So what do you think happens as currency increases? Supply is the same or increases at a certain rate. By the way, people said Bitcoin is deflationary. No, it's not. Bitcoin is inflationary. That's why you go from 0 coins to 19 million by inflating it. What is the halving? The halving is cut the inflation rate of Bitcoin in half. That's why it's called halving. Every 4 years, that happens. So because the market is much smaller, it's about $2 trillion. For you to have an idea, the bond market is like 450 trillion or 500 trillion. So 2 trillion is basically nothing. And with well-defined rules. And the miners actually try to keep as much Bitcoin as they can in their balance sheet. And they sell as little as they can to pay for electricity taxes and the likes. Question from Blue Oak Legends. So doesn't suppress gold, even if they suppress it for decades, eventually the price has to reevaluate massively, or am I mistaken? Yeah, this is what I'm saying. The problem with gold, and it's true, there is spoofing, there is manipulation by banks. You're completely right on that. But the effect of it is much less than people think. The problem with gold is, I think, and this is a problem that arises because people don't tell the history of gold in the 70s very well. They pick what they like only. So what happens is we were under a gold standard. So $35, 1 ounce of gold. You enter any bank, you give $35, you get in your hands an ounce of gold. This is what it meant. So Nixon takes the dollar out of the gold standard, which means it takes all the other fiat currencies out of the gold standard. Because people were used to have gold as money for a long, long time, they kind of get panicked a little bit. And they actually start accumulating gold. Now we enter in this phase in the American history, which is the inflationary 70s. Okay? And that comes from the spending of the 60s and all of that. And also, you start having you have the largest generation in history, the baby boomers, coming to work. So when people come to work, they are not very productive. You see, productivity is the key. Productivity is what allows everything else to move. So you have a lot of factors, and also you have the oil wars, etc. So you have a lot of factors that push the price of things up. And when stocks don't go anywhere for a brief period of time, but gold keeps on going up because people are just accumulating it because they always thought about it as money, they get kind of confused. So gold is pretty much the only thing that is going up during that time period. And then something kicks in, which is very well known for all of us, particularly us that are in the crypto world, which is FOMO. You need to understand, people see stocks not going anywhere, bonds not going anywhere, and gold is the only asset that goes up. So what do? They buy it. Why do they buy it? Because it goes up. So it goes up more. So what happens? People buy it. Why do they buy it? Because it goes up. Up and up and up, and then we continue like this until 1982, where we hit the top at 850, and then we have a sell-off period until $200. Now, this gave the impression to the world, because this was at an inflation period at the same time, this gave the impression to the world that gold was an inflation hedge. I don't know what gold is at the moment, because we've had periods of low inflation and very high currency debasement, and gold did absolutely crap, going from 1,900 to 1,050. And when people say, but it went from $200 to $1,000 to 1,000, look, gold is down today versus 1981 top or 1982 top, adjusted for government inflation. So it's not an inflation hedge. It's been 40 years, actually 42 years, down, adjusted for inflation. So it's not a good inflation hedge. Real estate is a good inflation hedge. Stocks over the long period are a good inflation hedge, but not gold. So I think what's happening is gold kind of lost its place, because people buy it, but then people buy. So basically, people who buy gold, they are down. I mean, if they bought in 1982, for example, they are down today. I mean, we are in 2024. We had massive debts, we have massive money printing, we have massive currency debasement, and we still don't make new all-time highs. Actually, gold needs to go to $3,500 just to break even from 1982, adjusted for government's CPI, not even adjusted for currency debasement, just CPI. And the issue is that a lot of people buy gold in expectation of high inflation, but then the inflation doesn't come, so they sell gold, but then they even if we have high inflation, stocks end up doing better. So there's a bit of confusion around the place of gold, and that is not helpful when the people that mine it for a living don't think that it's money. Because if they thought it was money, they wouldn't sell it as quickly as they can on the market. So this is why people always get this wrong, and they don't understand why gold consistently underperforms, and then they will pick, oh yeah, but if you bought it on March 2000 and you sold in September 2011, you made a lot of money. Okay, but what about all the other time frames? It doesn't matter. And then gold is like a cult. It's the same people. It's always the same people that defend it to the extreme, and usually they are the ones that make money by having funds of it where you buy and you pay management fees. But now moving to crypto. So in this channel, and everybody is a witness of this, when we were around 74,000 back in March, I said Bitcoin halving, we should go to between $47,000 and $52,000. People were predicting 100K Bitcoin and 125 left translator cycle, but all this kind of stuff. And I said, and I repeat it, and I say it again, Bitcoin halving is a buy the rumor, sell the news event. Once again, if you're saying that this time is different, then you need to understand that you're predicting that Bitcoin, how old am I? I'm 31. So on Bitcoin, once again, I said, okay, if you think that we're going to go up and up, then once again, you are defending that we're going to have a buy the rumor, buy the event for the first time in history. I don't think so, but if you say so, that's fine. Now, I said that usually that takes up to 3 months. So April 19 to July 19, usually on average is 1.5 months, but it can go into 3 months. Actually, this cycle, for people who don't know, has been a fractal of and this actually makes me very excited, of the 2015-2017 cycle. 2014 looked very similar to 2022. 2015 looked identical to 2023, and 2016 is looking extremely similar to now, to 2024. 2017 was an amazing year, so I hope that we do get that fractal. But at the moment, it's been pure repetition. And the reason why I said 47 to 52K is because, I said, 74K seems about right. 38% down, because on average, that's how much Bitcoin goes down after the halving. I said, give it 32, 33%, because this time around we're going down a bit less than we used to go. Let's say 47 to 52,000. First time we went to 53.5. Second time we went to 52.9. So my target of 52 never happened. Now the 52.9, I understand. It was 1 or 2 exchanges that had it. I think most exchanges had it like 53.2. But again, I'm saying 47 to 52, while all the other channels are saying 100K. So, I mean, it is what it is. And then I said this, I think last week, between now and August, we should start to go up. Now, I think we went up a bit too fast based on what happened over the weekend. So there's a possibility that we retrace into 58,000. That's very possible. But I think most likely the bottom is now in, and it's a double bottom, 53.5 and now 52.9, which tends to be very bullish. So I hope that indeed that's the bottom and we can start going up. Now, we are not in the euphoria phase. We are not in the phase of everything you touch goes up, scam or not scam. Everything goes up. CME gap. No, actually, I just looked at some of the support lines. I only look at SMA 180, SMA 50, EMA 20, and SMA 9. If you look at those, on the daily and on the weekly, you get a very good way of feeling where you're going to be. Can we go to 58,000? Sure, it's all possible. Maybe 56,000, 58, maybe a little week down. Obviously, this is assuming that we don't have any more Black Swans event. If they manage to get Trump the next time, then obviously this changes. Okay, so I'm assuming that they've tried once and they're now finished. Now, there are a lot of things which are positive for crypto over the longer time period, and I've said this before. You see, I look at 2025 as my target. Can we have 30% corrections? Can we have 40% corrections? As you guys know, I'm in Andy. I didn't even know, but if I look at the charts, if I look at my charts, I see something between 57, 58. I said 58, 58. I don't think, by the way, I'm rough on that. I don't think they will attack Trump anymore. I think it's more likely that Biden has an accident rather than Trump. But I will give a bit more perspective on that in a second. So to me, I look at it 2025. It's all about the liquidity cycles. It's all about the money coming in. We need to start cutting rates, not because the Fed necessarily wants to do it, but because they have to do it because of the debt maturities, which if we let it go much further, then interest payment on the debt becomes a major spending item on the budget, which obviously that cannot happen with the size of the debt that the US has. So can we go back to 57, 58K? Sure. Is that a problem? No. It's part of the cycle. However, we should be out of this by, let's say, max beginning of August. But I do think that we went a bit too fast now. But actually, this was something that I was addressing, which is a lot of people were opening shorts between 60 and 65,000. There were a bit of record short positions over there. And I said, if we get there, you're going to start seeing some jumps going up as people are going to get liquidated over there. And people are saying, oh, but the shorts, this is so bearish. No, you need the shorts to be in place so they can be taken out. The same thing when we are in the euphoria phase. When we are in the euphoria phase, everybody's putting leveraged long positions. Leverage means, 5 times leverage, 20 times leverage. Some people 100 times leverage. It's completely crazy. So what happens is you end up getting liquidated in the process when it's a bit like rocket fuel, exactly. And on the euphoria phase is the other way around. Everybody's opening long positions, and that's what is necessary to have the bear market. You need then to take out those longs. But people always get it the wrong way. I was talking about, my God, I talked about it ad nauseum about the bottom signals, right? Peter Schiff doing technical analysis, Jim Cramer extremely bearish. Oh my God, the Germans are selling Bitcoin. They're out, by the way. Oh my God, Mt. Gox coins are coming. And crypto and the bull market was over. Remember that in some of the crypto media, the bull market was over, and time for the bear market again. And the major channels like Discover Crypto, oh, Bitcoin is now going to go to $40,000, and all of these things. And I said, yeah, that's your bottom signal, because people keep asking me, how can I see the bottom signals? What are these bottom signals that you talk about? Now you saw them in real time. So I hope that for the future you now understand what I mean by that, because you had a perfect example of exactly what I meant. Now, in terms of Mt. Gox, yes, there's about $9 billion, I think, Bitcoin that's going to be distributed. So what you need to understand is that, first of all, not all of it's going to be sold. Let's say 30% is going to be sold. Oh, by the way, before we get to Mt. Gox, I want to say this. A little trick that you guys can pay attention to things is, back in 2022, early 2023, you remember the news about crypto? Crypto is a scam. Documentaries were being made. Crypto is a scam. Crypto is finished. With high interest rates, crypto cannot survive. That is it. No more free money. Forget about crypto. It's all done. It's all done and finished. And what did we discover? We discovered that institutions like BlackRock were buying when those news come out. Now, there's a bit of a conspiracy. I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. You can actually see some of these things in the addresses, but when big players want to buy crypto, there's a concerted effort, or allegedly, all of a sudden, coincidentally, every channel on the planet, every crypto media on the planet start slamming bad news about bad and after bad news and after bad news all at the same time. Curious enough, it's just a coincidence, the big institutions are buying aggressively during that time period. And then from one week to the other, as soon as they secure their major positions, also again, coincidentally, the news all become positive. They all become positive. Just like now. Now we had bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And then you look at the ETFs, and they are all aggressively buying. What a coincidence. Why do I get the feeling that you remember that time period where Ethereum was selling off, and all the news were negative about Ethereum very recently? Why do I have the feeling that when the Ethereum ETF is up and running, I think is next week, right? 23 or 24th of July. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the latest that I've seen. Why do I have the feeling that the entities issuing the ETFs were accumulating a lot of Ethereum during that time period? Why do I have that feeling? Maybe I'm a Nostradamus, right? Maybe I just view the world. It's always so funny. Oh yeah, by the way, the Ethereum ETF should be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. However, it should last less time than before. This is an important thing you should learn about the bull market as well, which is certain negative items during the bear market take 3 to 4 months to be cleansed out, meaning to be processed and sold off, and very painful time period. When those happen in the bull market, they tend to last 3 weeks. So that's the big difference between the bull and the bear market. But keep this in mind, because I've said this many times before. The bull and the bear have sell-offs. Now, I don't know, of course, if you look at monthly candles, you'll see that it's pretty much all green. But within that, you have a lot of sell-offs. I mean, even in the last bull market, right? Bitcoin went from 65 to 29,000 and then to 69,000. So you need to be comfortable that there's going to be sell-offs in the cycle. Now about Mt. Gox. It's about $9 billion. By the way, the DOJ has sold. The Germans have sold. Mt. Gox is the last big selling event. Number one, not all single people will sell their Bitcoin. Number two, a lot of people will trade their Bitcoin for other crypto. Number three, a lot of people will sell. As I think $3 billion have gone to Kraken, I think, and based on the ETFs, by the way, also from China via Hong Kong, they've been actively buying. So I get the feeling that they will be willing to buy the majority of that Bitcoin up. But what you should think about it is, okay, after Mt. Gox is done, and pretty much Grayscale is also done, what sell-off event is left? Not much, right? What is the next one? I don't know. I don't think there's any major sell-off coming. Okay. The Germans already sold, right? Okay. What does that mean? That means if they sold, they cannot hurt the price when the price is going up. Oh, interesting. What's happening, by the way, in quarter 4? Oh, FTX settlements will happen. How much are they? $16 billion in USDC. Not Bitcoin, USDC. What happens if 50% of it goes back into crypto? What happens if 75% goes back into crypto? So if people think that the $9 billion for Mt. Gox is going to be sold, what about the 16 billion in USDC from FTX? Good question. What happens if the ETFs keep on buying aggressively? What happens if another country decides to make Bitcoin its reserve currency, like El Salvador? If Bitcoin keeps on going up, El Salvador becomes an increasingly success story. Don't you think maybe other countries in similar situations that El Salvador had may look at it as a success story? Possibility, right? So when people always think about the negative stuff, you should also think about the positive things. Now, the ETF on Ethereum, I think, is going to be extremely positive. Ethereum, as I've mentioned before, is much better than Bitcoin on almost everything. And I think it has the potential to do very well. Now, Ethereum will also have a big selling pressure, which is the Grayscale owns $15 billion of Ethereum. So that will need to be sold down probably, unless they come up with an ETF with the same cost base as the others. Then you have very little reason to sell so much. As the problem with Grayscale Bitcoin ETF is that it was 10 times more expensive than BlackRock. So people say, yeah, but it's the same ETF, right? So why should I pay 10 times the fees if I can pay 10% here? So they're just going over there. Do you have any countries in mind? Yeah. What about Nigeria, for example? That's possible. Mexico, there were some rumors in the past. I don't know. What about Argentina? They've had hyperinflation forever. They have a very libertarian government nowadays. Why not? My point being, I'm not predicting it's going to happen. What I'm saying is, why not? Why we only have imaginary horribles and never imaginary, roof pools, right? Imaginary amazing stuff. Both can happen, right? What about Venezuela? Unlikely. What about Nicaragua? Also has a lot of inflation. Who knows? What about Turkey? Who knows? Let's see. But I would say probably Argentina, Nigeria, I see it more likely than the others. Now, Andy and Hoppy, my two best lottery ticket plays. So Andy dropped to, I got in at $1.5 million market cap, and it went to 320. Then it sold down to 80, and now it's above 150. Once again, 2025. See, I don't get lost in these up and downs. Otherwise, you get slashed. Hoppy, same thing. I got in at 1.2 million, went to 80 million, back to 37 million, and now it's at close to 50 million. I think it's undervalued. I think we'll probably we'll cross at least 100 million with that one as well. Again, 2025. Now, Pulse Chain is starting to show signs of life. Pulse Chain, Plsx, X, Hydron, and Icosa, as everybody knows, are my retirement coins, what I call my retirement coins. Now, what does that mean? That means that I've done immense research on them over the bear market, and I've decided that those offer the best opportunity for my retirement. And I have the biggest clips are on those coins. As everybody knows, I've disclosed it for transparency purposes. I've never sold them, and I keep them. And I'm looking at it for 2025. Once again, the origin address or the sacrifice address is 170,000 Ethereum. So if Ethereum goes to $15,000, and if that address rotates 2/3 of the profits into the ecosystem, then those coins can go up 100-fold or something. Would that be bullish news when start selling gold for BTC, considering the war and how US sees their assets in USD? It could be a good possibility. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's possible. I mean, Bitcoin is not very good for currency. Bitcoin is an asset that holds its value and just stands there. So for currency, there are better options than Bitcoin. However, yes, I mean, what I think they could do is maybe they could back part of their currency with Bitcoin. That's also, I would see that more likely. But yeah, I mean, again, anything is possible in that sense. And if you're always thinking about, negative possibilities, you should always consider the positive possibilities as well. So I continue to see 2025 as the target. So far, I'm more inclined to say the top will happen somewhere around Q3 2025. This will be more tickled once we get closer, once we move forward into the cycle. However, the point is, cycle 2 coins or cycle 2 narratives, they still do very well in the cycle, but they do the best at the end of the cycle, and they will do probably somewhere between 50 to 100x. But I've put my positions in such a way that if a 50, 75x happens, I'm already very, very well off. And the lottery tickets, which are cycle 1 coins and cycle 1 narratives, they can do 1,000x, 5,000x, a millionfold. That's all possible. However, it's much more difficult. Why? Because it's new coins, so you don't have the time to actually go into depth in the reasons why that should do very well. Plsx in particular, I like it a lot because it's very cheap, and you have the buy and burn. So every day people use it, and a little bit of the supply gets bought and burned every single day, like a drunken Michael Saylor coming in, buying and burning the coin every single day. So I do expect those to do well. And since Ethereum is not a security and Pulse Chain is a literal copy of Ethereum, I have a good feeling that the SEC will drop the case sometime probably around October, and we can move on from that. One thing that I should say is, do you think Andy and Hoppy could do 1,000x? I mean, not from here, to be clear, not from here. When I got in at 1.5 million on Andy, and I got at 1.2 million on Hoppy. Is it possible that they do 1,000x from there? Yes, it is possible that they do 1,000x from there. But even the all-time low of Hoppy, I think, was, I don't know, 500k, and Andy's all-time low was $275,000 market cap. So even if you look at Andy from bottom to top, you're talking 275,000. You're talking 200. Yeah, I mean, if you got in at 200,000, you're already at your 1,000x, right? When it hit 200 million. It depends on when you're measuring. If you ask me, do I think Andy is gonna do 1,000x from here, from 150 million, 1,000x? No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. No problem, Estonia. Thank you very much for the comment. But Hoppy, I mean, again, it depends on what you're looking at, right? 48 million. Are we gonna do? Why exactly Andy from the boys club? Okay, how did I find Hoppy? Okay, so Pepe from Ethereum was obviously one of the big winners of the cycle. That was undeniable. And those coins were, and then you had the boys club, the friends of Pepe in the cartoons, being launched on Ethereum as well. And the Ethereum itself was extremely undervalued, in my opinion. So as Ethereum goes up, it drags everything in the ecosystem up because they are all linked to Ethereum. You see, so Ethereum is like in the center, everybody's liquidity bonded into it. So if this one becomes more valuable, by definition, the ecosystem becomes more valuable. That's why Solana meme coins did so well, because Solana was going up a lot in price. And so it drags the ecosystem up. So my bet was, and actually the first person that rose this idea that I saw was your friend Somi. I'm not sure if you follow him or not, but he calls it derivative theory, which is the coins related to Pepe, the origin, the 0x69 address, would do very well because many of the investors on it come from Pepe. So what I tried to do was, okay, let me try to find the friends of Pepe and cheap ones. So I wanted something that was around for quite some time, so it was not a rug pull for a bit of time, let's say at least a week, and something that was cheap. So $1.5 million market cap, 1.2 million, somewhere underneath $2 million market cap. And I said, okay, I'm going to drop $800 in each. Okay, let's see what happens. And why Andy and Hoppy? It's because at the time they had no competition on Ethereum. You see, I had Landwolf for a while, and I sold it for a profit, and it was actually the good decision because it was the 0615 address. It was not the 0667 or 66 address, the one that is in connection with Pepe, right? That one seems to be the winner. But the problem with Landwolf is that at some moment there are like 4 or 5 coins. So I'm like, okay, which one's going to win? I don't know. And at the time, Andy only had one on Ethereum. I'm talking about Andy on Ethereum. And Hoppy was the only one on Ethereum as well. So I said, okay, fine. I'll drop $800 on each, see what happens. I also bought $800 on... about the address. So you have Pepe, which is 0x69. And then you have Andy, which is 0x68. Brett, which I think was 0x66. But that one actually ended up collapsing. Then you had 0x67, which is Landwolf. Then you have 0x70, which is Bird Dog. And then you have 0x71, which is Zeus. Now, okay, so I said, okay, this is good enough for me to make a bet. Let's call it a lottery ticket, just like going to the casino. You know, you throw $800, and I thought, okay, I'm going to throw $800. If it goes well, excellent. If it goes bad, will I live under a bridge? No, it's fine. That's the definition of a lottery ticket. You try to see if you capture a narrative. And the reason why I bet more on Andy and Hoppy is because at the time there was only one Andy and there was only one Hoppy. My problem with Bird Dog, for example, which is the address 0x70, is because it has a competitor which is older, and actually it's worth more now than the 0x70 Bird Dog. So when I got but Bird Dog, I got it very early at around 500k, 500k market cap. And then it went to 8 million. So I sold a lot, between 6 and 7 million. I sold almost everything. And then I sold everything on Bird Dog, and I got a 14x on that one. So 14x. And now I saw Bird Dog around 900k, and I couldn't resist. So I said, okay, I'll throw $1,000 into that one. But my problem with Bird Dog is I don't know which one of them is going to win. The reason why I got out of Landwolf when it went to like 20 million, I sold everything that I had, is because there are like 5 Landwolves on Ethereum. And the same thing with Zeus. Zeus also had some security problems that I didn't like, so I kept away from it. And then when I looked at Brett also had on Ethereum, also had like 3 or 4 coins. And I'm like, I don't know which one's going to win. So I mean, look, if I find something around, 500k market caps, okay, I'll throw a little bit. I also have Foti, which is Pepe's girlfriend on Ethereum. That one has been the worst performer. I bought it because it was 95% down. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll throw $750 into it. I think I'm down $300 or something. But I'm planning to hold it for the long time. It was the only Pepe girlfriend coin at the time. Maybe it goes to 0. I mean, that's entirely possible. I don't know. It's a lottery ticket, right? That's why I always said every time I get a lottery ticket, I put very small money into it, and I always put it on a different wallet. So I don't let those coins touch my main wallet because I don't know anything about them. I don't have time to do major research. I say, look, is it cheap? Does it fit the narrative? Is it down 90%? Which is something that I like. I like to buy stuff that is down 90%. If it fits all of these, okay, I'll drop $500 into it or $750 and let it go. And then if I'm not very convinced about the coin, let's say it does a 5x, okay, let me take my principal plus double the profit, and I let it go. If it goes up, excellent. If it goes down, I already made my money, it's fine. So this is how I usually look at these things. Now, of course, the vice president that has been selected is very pro-crypto. He has $250,000 in Bitcoin, and he hates Gary Gensler. Obviously, that is also good. What do I think about Solana performance in 2025? Steve, Pepper-related coin, but on Solana. Yeah, the problem that I had with Solana is that it was so, at some point, it was so many rug pulls, and there were so many coins about the same subject all the time that I gotta be that it was like Ethereum even worse to me. So that's why I always kept a little bit away from it. I think Solana will do well. I think it will not outperform Ethereum anymore. I think because Solana did so well. Probably it will underperform the majority of the other altcoins. It depends a little bit on how serious that ETF stuff is. Obviously, if there's an ETF, that will have a very positive impact, but I don't think that Solana will outperform Ethereum any longer. And actually, funny enough, and this is a coin that I don't have, but I think it's important to say, the best performer, the best thing you could have had would be actually BNB. BNB went down less than Bitcoin in the bear market, sorry. It went so Bitcoin went down 77%. I think BNB went down 63%. And BNB already had a new all-time high, while only Bitcoin had a new all-time high of the old coins. So BNB, even with the founder in jail, even with Binance paying $4 billion in settlement claim, even with BUSD being targeted, even with BNB being targeted by the SEC, that coin did very, very well. And I think it's important for people to know that. And people say, oh, but it's super centralized, and it's and basically the profits of the Binance exchange get rotated into buying BNB, so the price goes up. Say, look, man, I'm here for retirement and returns. I'm not here for ethical or for philosophical stuff. That's not for me. That's, you do you do whatever. I don't give two craps about it. So that's why I don't fall for the same craziness that you see in other channels and communities that get completely, everything that someone does is excellent and everything the other person does is terrible. I don't play those kind of games. I'm here, we're all here for the same thing. And finally, today, I've already been here for an hour. I was planning to do half an hour, but I need to cover this because this is very important. We were talking about in this channel a while ago when Trump was being targeted, and I always said, and I disclosed this, I am in favor of Trump in this election. Why? I'm not an American. And no, best of luck, Alan. Don't get me wrong. It's just, to me, I rather stick to Ethereum, and I have certain criteria to go after certain coins, and I always disclose my positions. There was one of my followers that talked about Watt and Flappy on Ethereum, which did, I think from the time he was talking about it, each of them did a 20x. So don't get me wrong, I'm extremely happy for him, and if the one that you picked on Solana does very well, I wish you the best of luck. I really do. I'm not in this kind of what I just said about Solana. To me is that because it outperformed so well in the beginning of the cycle, I tend to believe that it will probably underperform a little bit later. It was you. Congratulations. So you see, maybe you're on to something, man. You are on a complete roll. I remember you suggested a few coins, and all of them. No, I got it. Exactly. I got it. No, I mean, you've done incredibly well, huh? So congratulations, and maybe Steve, maybe you'll do extremely well on this one as well. I really wish you the best of luck, and I truly say so. And if you keep on choosing those bangers, you're gonna do just fine in this bull market. And yeah, hopefully you can also recognize when the top signals set in, and it's time for us to take a break. Maybe go to the Cayman Islands and enjoy life a little bit during the next bear market. Now, on the other subject, which is not so great, and I am going to be very careful with the words that I say here, because yesterday I was already shadow banned, and I'm afraid that I get banned outright. So I need to be very careful with what I'm saying. If you guys have been following this channel, and I've been saying this for a long time, I said I was in support of Trump for personal reasons. Number one is I thought between him and the other guy, he was better for crypto, since I have the majority of my money in crypto. That benefits directly me. I'm not in the US, so I'm not an American. So to me, my day-to-day life is not changed by the election. And number two, is, sorry, Rafa. Yeah, I think I was shadow banned because I could see the engagement dropping massively, and I have a little trick to check it, which is basically certain videos of mine. If you go on YouTube without being logged in, you can see certain videos are not recommended if you talk about certain subjects, and that's how you can tell that most likely, I will say allegedly because I cannot prove it, probably it got shadow banned. But sorry. So on one side, I have a vested interest because I think Trump is better for crypto, which is better for me. Number two is when he was president, things seemed to be quieter on the conflict. Let's call it let's hope I can say the word conflict around the world, not just the Middle East and Europe, but in general. So since I hate conflicts, my personal interest is aligned with him. Now, what I started to witness in the US, because as you guys have noticed, I love to study history, these kind of behaviors, the constant comparisons to certain German former historic, terrible historic figures, the complete trying to shut down people, the try to cancel him, trying to get his money, trying to impeach him, trying to arrest him, and all of these things, which are tactics that you would see in a period during the 20th century, that certain powers of a certain political regimes got into power in Italy, in Spain, in Portugal, and in Germany, most well known in Germany, despite that movement was started in Italy. Those kind of tactics were used at the time, the persecution of political opponents and all of that. And when it was clear that he was not going to jail, meaning Trump was not going to go to jail, I said, okay, unless something worse than jail happens, he will probably win. Now, what I meant by worse than jail, I think everybody understood what I meant, was exactly what happened on Saturday. So what happened on Saturday shocked me because I didn't think they would attempt this in 2024, but it didn't surprise me. And for anyone following this channel, was also not surprised. And the reason why I thought they were not going to attempt this in 2024 is because everybody has a smartphone. So now everybody saw the video, that you remember that 2-minute video on Twitter, it's everywhere, where basically it's counting the time that somebody could have done something before basically hundreds of people shouting, there's a guy on the roof with a toy, there's a guy on the roof with a toy, there's a guy on the roof with a toy. And let's say that they didn't want to take the first step, that the secret services and the police didn't want to take the first step, right? Can't anybody take Trump off the stage? That's just a question. If you have enough reason to think there's a threat and you don't know exactly how to deal with it, but basically if you have hundreds of people for several minutes telling you that everybody can see someone on the roof with a certain toy, Can't anybody tell the Secret Services, hey, can we take Trump off the stage for like 5 minutes just to see that anything is going around? So when I say that they would try to do this to him, I'm not saying hiring someone to do it. I'm saying having the conditions perfectly in order and then doing nothing about it to prevent it. That's what I meant. And that's exactly what we had. Now, the reason why it was shocking is because now that everybody can see these videos, they look at these videos and they say, I don't understand. Because you have so much time to at least take him off the stage. You see, because the argument, if you listen even to the, let's say, not so mainstream media where people actually discuss this subject a bit more openly, because by the way, this video doesn't even pop up in mainstream media. Forget about it. This video is everywhere online, and there's not just one video. I have several videos of different angles of the building, of people shouting at officials and at the Secret Service, there's a guy over there, there's a guy over there, there's a guy over there, can you please do something about this? The only thing they need to do is to talk here to the little piece they have in their ear and say, take Trump off the stage immediately. You see? Took 3 seconds. Code red, take Trump off the stage. 3 seconds, the issue is averted, they go and investigate the situation, and then they make their own decision. None of this happened. Now, the problem is this is all on camera. So I know that mainstream media tries to cover this as much as possible, to hide this from you as much as possible. But you see, X is no longer a political tool. X is owned by the richest man on the planet. So now everyone is looking at it, and it becomes very apparent what was tried here. You see, in the 60s, when something similar happened in the United States to an active president, there was no cameras. It's curious that Kennedy said a few unsavory things about certain internal agencies of the country, and curious enough, next week somebody decided to make him go away. And if you think that what I'm saying is conspiracy theories, then what you're saying, you need to understand what that means. If all of this was just a security breach and was nothing more than that, then what you're saying is that a single guy with a ladder could outsmart the most sophisticated security team on the planet. So that's what you're believing. You're believing that once the only thing that takes to bypass the most professional security team on the planet is a ladder. That's it. If you get a ladder, you're off to the races. If you believe that, then, I mean, you're fine. You can believe this. You can believe in Santa Claus. You can believe that the world is the earth is flat. So you can believe all of this. Now, the reason why I thought that the only thing that could happen after they tried all these steps, so cancel, didn't work. Impeach, didn't work. Go after all his money, didn't work. Imprisonment, didn't work. There's only one left. I mean, I don't know, people say, oh, there's conspiracy. No, it's not conspiracy theory. It's the logical next step. And then you see this, but at my heart of hearts, I never predicted that this could happen, because I thought exactly what happened in 2024. Everybody has a camera. You're going to need to explain a lot of things, because the whole thing has 6 or 7 buildings, right? Just put people on each one of them. They have a water tower in the middle, huge. There's no one there. There are pictures that the guy was in the scope of some of the Secret Service people. So now it's up to you to believe whatever you want. Now, this is the factual part. And now I'm going to go into the conspiracy theory part. I've said something on this channel, because this is creating some unease inside me, because now I don't think they're going to try the second time. I think one time was it. It missed. By the grace of God, by whatever. By the way, I will tell you how the mainstream media is. 7 or 8 minutes after this already happened, there was a title on CNN homepage, and I actually got the print screen of this, which was saying, Secret Services rushes Trump out of the rally after he falls. Like he just fell. He fell to the ground. Like maybe, oh, he's an old man that just fell. This was written on the CNN homepage. And I've already seen quite the articles today. Oh, Trump falls asleep on the RNC, Republican National Committee, in wherever they are now. I forgot where they are, right? I forgot where they are right now. But where Milwaukee, I think it's Milwaukee. Trump falls asleep in the first day of the RNC. He has his eyes closed because they are in the time where they're doing the prayer. They are praying. Everybody's with their eyes closed. And the title of the news is, Trump falls asleep. I mean now the National Committee, the Republican National Committee, where he was formally introduced as the GOP candidate, right? He was with his eyes closed praying because it was the time where they do this little prayer. And the news article was Trump falls asleep in the first day of the committee. No, he didn't fall asleep. He was just praying. There's another thing going online, which is a picture of Trump saying, Trump, you see, it was all staged. He has no wound in his ear. It was all staged. That picture is from 2022. This is where we are nowadays. I mean, you have a picture of the bullet traveling and people still say it's staged. I mean, there's no helping here. Now, the part that I said conspiracy theory is everybody's aware now that even if you change Biden, Trump will win. It's very obvious to anyone that he will win. So what I said is I only see one way he could lose. The only way I see he can lose is something happens to Biden. I don't know what. I'm not wishing for it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying the only way that I see that he can lose is something happens to Biden. And we all end up discovering that it was a Trump supporter in retaliation. And then they replace Biden, as they always wanted. That's the only way I see. Am I predicting this? No. Am I wishing for this? No. I'm saying it's the only way that I see that he can lose. And then we'll all need to pretend once again that a lot of accidents and coincidences just happen to lay the foundation exactly as we wanted. And I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that this stopped here. I hope that, okay, there is too many unanswered questions. There is too much weird things happening, and I'm being very polite here. But if this happens, what I just said, then all bets are off. Anything can happen if that's the case. I really hope it doesn't, and I really hope we stop here. But it's the only way that I see him losing the election. So this is something that we need to live with, that all at this moment, in my view, all bets are off. Anything is possible, and we need to take it day by day. And we need to try and do the best we can for ourselves. Hopefully, nothing happened to him, but it happened to someone in the audience who was protecting their wife and children. If I was that family, I would be suing a lot of people. With all the video evidence that is out there, I would be suing a lot of people. And, we can always control what we can control. I call crypto the raft, the last hope that people like me, I think, has. Once again, I'm not here trying to advise you to do anything. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not here trying to, to push for anything. I'm not here trying to create cults, not here trying to sell stuff to you. I'm just, in this particular situation, because this is very sensitive, I'm only asking questions. Why, if so many people are shouting for 2 minutes straight about something, if people, now it's been reported everywhere that even law officials were aware of this, why wasn't Trump removed from the stage? And this is the question that I rarely see asked, and there is no answer to it. And the reason why I think there's no answer, in my view, is because I don't think this was so innocent, particularly taking into account the former steps that have happened one by one over time, where there's an escalation of persecution against a political person. And I thought that I wouldn't see this in 2024, because now it backfired, in my view, because there are too many cameras out there in the world, and you are putting yourself in a position that, it's going to be very hard. Now, I don't know how they're going to try to prove this. I've already seen that what they're trying to do is to say that Trump caused this into himself. So, yeah, no, if I was him, I would spend about $200 million in my own private security. Just like there's a reason why Kennedy, the Robert F. Kennedy, the independent candidate that was running in the Democrat side, he said, oh, you have the Secret Service? Yeah, okay, fine, that I have my own security. That's it, I don't want to risk anything. So he's telling you that there's something wrong for him to want his own security, right? And he was running on the Democrat side. So, now you fill in the blanks. Now it's up to you. I just said something which is factual. There's no, what I said is all the facts that I've witnessed. Yeah. And now it's up to you to look at the evidence out there and you make your own conclusions. I'm not here, once again, I'm not here trying to bring you into my Discord group. I'm not here trying to sell you the next mastermind course or whatever that garbage is. I'm just here broadcasting my own opinion. And I think I'll call it today. Been here for 1 hour 20. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, so a lot of stuff has happened. Once again, still looking at 2025. Still looking at that liquidity cycle. I have not seen anything different than what we used to see in the past. So I hope that this was the peak of the nonsense and of the aggressiveness, and then we can just move into a better place. I'm not in the US again, I'm not an American, but this is not something that you like to see in the world. And with that, guys, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for being here, for all the questions. I hope that I replied to everything that you said. I really tried to follow up the chat as well. I'd like to thank you once again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget, drop that like and subscribe. Is the only thing that I really ask. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next one.